Welcome, dear friends, to another episode of the stories of Mahabharata. Episode-1. It was a time of the Dwapar Yuga. The great Rishi Vyasa, who composed an epic story named the Mahabharata. Vyasa, who was the son of the sage Parashara and Satyavati. Since he was of a dark complexion and was born in an island, he was also called Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa. Vyasa composed the poem but couldn't write it down because his thoughts ran faster than his pen. He was looking for a scribe who could write the verses in the same speed with which he had narrated them, but found none. Then Vyasa invoked Lord Brahma. Brahma appeared before Vyasa and asked, "Why did you call me, Vyasa? What do you want?" Vyasa said, "O Lord, I have composed this wonderful poem, an epic which is a story of mankind, a story of humanity. But I need someone who can write it while I recite the verses. Can you recommend someone?" Brahma said, "I think Ganesha would be the best person for this job. Why don't you ask him?" Vyasa called Ganesha. Ganesha appeared and asked, "I understand you're looking for a scribe for your poem." "Yes, I am," said Vyasa. "I can write your poem for you," said Ganesha. "But I have a condition. My pen should never stop. If you ever hesitate while you are reciting your poem and my pen stops, it will not start again and I will leave right away." Vyasa thought for a while and said, "I agree, but I also have a condition. You should not write a single word or verse without understanding it." Ganesha thought that should be easy. After all, Ganesha is a god and Vyasa a mere human being. How could Vyasa write something that he couldn't understand? Ganesha agreed to Vyasa's condition and sat down to write. Vyasa started dictating the poem, but whenever Vyasa ran out of material and needed some time, he would compose a verse with difficult words and complicated phrases. Even the god Ganesha had to stop and think to decipher those phrases, and Vyasa composed more in his mind. Thus the great story of Mahabharata began to take shape with the wonderful collaboration between Vyasa and Ganesha. Long, long ago, there lived a king named Shantanu, who ruled over a vast kingdom in the North India. Hastinapur was the capital of the kingdom. One day, Shantanu was strolling around the river banks and listening to the soothing sounds of the flowing water. Suddenly, he saw a maiden. She was really beautiful. Shantanu went to the lady and asked, "Will you marry me?" The lady smiled and said, "I have a couple of conditions for whoever wants to marry me. If you agree to my conditions, I will marry you. And I should warn you, these conditions are really tough to follow." Shantanu said, "I can agree to any of your conditions." The lady smiled again and said, "Listen to them before you agree. First, you cannot ask or inquire who I am and where I come from. Second, you can never stop me for any of my actions, whatever they may be, and you cannot ask for any of the explanation for my action. If you ever break your promise, I will leave you at once. Do you think you can agree to my condition?" The king did not have the patience to think through. He said, "I will agree to any of your conditions. Please, will you marry me?" The lady agreed. Shantanu took her to the palace in Hastinapur and married her. They happily married, spent quality time until the first boy was born. When Shantanu heard the news, he ran to the birthing chamber and saw the queen covering the child in a shawl and walking away. The king was going to ask a question, but suddenly he remembered his promise and kept quiet. He followed the queen and saw the queen dropping the baby into a river. Shantanu was horrified. How could a mother do such a thing with his child? He wanted to shout as his queen, but remembered his promise. He was heartbroken, but kept his mouth shut. After about a year, Shantanu had almost forgotten the trauma of the first child, and Queen gave birth to another child. And this time too, she dropped the baby into the river right after his birth. Shantanu neither protested nor asked for any explanation for her horrific behavior. The king bound by his promise kept quiet and watched the tragic moments. When the eighth son was born, the queen was going to drown the baby in the river. Shantanu could not take it anymore. He shouted, "Stop! Stop this! I won't tolerate this anymore." The queen stopped and said, "You promised." The king told, "I don't care about the promise anymore. How could you do such a horrible thing and kill your own child? I have kept my mouth shut for all these years. I won't let you do this to my child." That's it for this week's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, share and subscribe and comment down below to know more about this story. Thank you for listening. Bye.